Welcome to the REI Hacker Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of real estate success. Join us as we dive into the journeys of top investors, mentors, and industry experts. And now, let's hand it off to our host, Benson Juarez.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. Really excited for my next guest. His name's Gualter Amarelo. Gualter and I have known each other for many years. We've recently reconnected, and I'm so excited to have him as a guest on the podcast. He's an accomplished entrepreneur and an author. He's written several really exciting books. He's got over a decade of experience in real estate investing. He's a private lender. He's an asset manager. He's also the founder of the Alchemist Nation. It's a real estate investment community dedicated to helping others to succeed. Gualter, thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Benson, I'm glad to be back, man. I switched my background to try to catch up as cool as yours. So, yeah, you missed like all the titles of my books. So I'm just gonna hold back and say I've written 3 books, and people can go Google my name now. So let's rock.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, people have been telling me that for years, that like publishing a book is just a really good way to get your name out there, build credibility, and share your message with people in a way that's everlasting, right? You can have it in paper form, you can have it in digital form, and you can generate a lot of cool content from it too.
It's absolutely amazing. So one of the things I learned from writing a book, and my best-selling book is still the best book that I've ever written. The other books I think are way better, but everybody reads my best written book, which is more of story form. The other books I wrote were very like, here's how you get rich, like very specifically, here's how it's done. And people don't buy that one. They want the one with the story about my divorce and how I came back and how I was, homeless and how I was buying real estate, living in my office. Like that's the book everybody reads. And maybe it's because it's only 120 pages. That could be the reason.
It could be. Well, here's the thing though. They don't know until they start reading it what it's going to be about, unless, they're reading the foreword or the summary in the back. But a lot of times with books, people refer to them like, hey, this is my favorite book. So, someone really liked your story and told somebody else like, hey, I like this book, read this one. And
I found it to be very helpful with new relationships. So a person who comes to me from Facebook will be like, hey man, I read your book. And so it kind of starts us off. I don't have to tell them anything about myself right now because now it's their turn to tell me how it related to them. And it saves me all of that. Yeah, here's what I've done. Here's who I am. And it really has saved up and like cut down that time to live, getting to know a person. So now I can just learn about them. They reach out to me and they really just want to tell me how they related, which is like such a time saver.
It is. Yeah, it really is. And you can build some context around the conversation too. If you've got some common threads, then you know how to talk to somebody because you're like, oh, this person's from my old neighborhood, right? And
I know the framework. I know what they know about me very specifically based on the book they told me. And then it's okay, from here, let's run to the races. Where you're trying to go, what are you looking for, and see how we can partner up.
Well, let's do that for our audience today then. All right. Let's start to give people a sense of who you are, starting with where it all began. So you grew up in Fall River, right? It's a tight-knit Portuguese community. And you had to work your way up. Like, how did your upbringing influence your perspective on money and work and all the success you've had so far?
It's so cool that we had COVID, right? So here's my upbringing was I was homeschooled. I was raised in a cult, and I was really like an introverted, isolated person who never left my city. And I never left Fall River. I loved Fall River, but then I got married and she wanted to leave right away. So like all of those 3 components of just it was really about everything all being done by myself. So later on, who did I become? I became the guy who started a community of like, hey, let's do things together. Because I learned very quickly being homeschooled, self-learning is so important. I've read over 500 books because I learned how to learn things myself. So there's a positive to that. So it's important because I mentioned COVID because there's so many kids right now who got into homeschooling and the parents started to see the benefits. And I have to say, even though maybe as a kid, I was like, I felt ostracized. I felt separated from other friends because everybody went to school. But my friends, were still my friends from like, the neighborhood. So I had that tight knit group, but it created in me this kind of, I'm different from everybody else, and I was kind of, I got used to that. I got okay with that. So when I would interact with a person in real estate and I was negotiating deals, I just assumed that I was different from everybody else. Like they were going to sell me the property at a discount and I was going to take it over and crush it because I was different. I knew I was different and I outstudied people, and that felt like gave me so much confidence, listening to podcasts, reading the books, talking to mentors. I had no shame going up to rich guys and be like, dude, how'd you do it? That was my game. I was call a rich guy today. I'm going to call another rich guy and just say,
Yeah.
can I take you to lunch? How'd you do it? And I guess I didn't know otherwise because I wasn't really socialized, when I was young. I was very introverted. And so to just go out and talk to people, I create a system for it. And
A
yeah, then I
system
just
to
followed it.
go talk to people. Like, what was that structure like?
Yeah. So the system was I call 5 rich people every day. And so I found rich people the same way Privy finds rich people. I just went online and said, who owns 10 properties in my city? You have to be rich, right?
Yeah.
Well, like who owns the most real estate? And then I just like made the list of 100 people and I said, I got to go call these 100 millionaires. And I called them and I take them out to lunch. And it was a system. It was like I have to call and I have to invite them to lunch. And that was my whole system. I have to admit I have to know absolutely nothing. I really want to learn. I just tell them my goal. And that this doesn't sound like much, but that was the system. The system I committed to myself was talk to rich people. And since I never wanted to do it, I just had to create a KPI and I said 5. And I could do 5 in a day. I was broke. I was an agent. I just gone through a divorce. There was a lot of for pressure that forced me to do it. Benson, it wasn't like it was an option. Like the introvert would have stayed an introvert if I hadn't gone through divorce, if I hadn't quit my job, if I hadn't bought my first properties and considered I thought I was going to lose them in the divorce. So I just something snapped, and then introverts don't belong in real estate. Just naturally, I would say we don't. But you don't belong being the realtor anyway, like as an agent. But that was all I had. I had agency as my license and I got it just to be an investor. But then when the divorce happened, I was like, I got to turn this into an income. And so then I was in Remax. Thank God they have all this training. So I'm going to like Tony Robbins courses and watching old Zig Ziglar videos and uh, Brian Buffini and like you name it. If it was Tom Ferry and Tom Hopkins, like if it was somebody who taught real estate training, I was
Wow.
obsessed because Grant Cardone, like anybody.
Those names are just like Tom Hopkins. I had a book that I got in like 2000, like 2002 or something. Like those names just really take me back. Um, it's pretty amazing that I mean, but it's smart that you did that. How did those millionaires take to that message? Like, were they like taken back a little bit? Like, what do you want from me? Like, what's your angle? Um, Not thinking that you were there just to like absorb information and get inspired and find some people that you could emulate, but were some of them like, wait, what's going on here?
My assessment of their opinion of me was I was a pest. Like I really
Mm.
just I embraced it and I said, look, I know I'm annoying now, but one day I'll do something for you. Just, bear with me. Like I know like if there's anything I can do, I don't even know what to tell you I can do, but uh just please give me the 15 minutes of your time. Can I ask a few questions? And I've never had somebody say no when I said, please, I just gotta ask you a few questions. I'm desperate. I gotta learn. I gotta learn this game. And it's just like everybody's been there. Everybody's been there. And that kind of if you give me 15 minutes of asking questions, you're gonna realize I've been asking other people questions and I'm learning,
Hmm.
and you're gonna give me a chance. And that's just how it started. Was real unsophisticated, untrained, untalented, genuine believing I was a pest and being okay with that. Like just accepting that I was gonna annoy some people and the right people were gonna give me a chance.
Yeah. But that ingredient there that you have in you is what has helped to help you excel in real estate and entrepreneurship, that hunger for knowledge, the humbleness it takes to go and tell somebody like I haven't done crap yet. Just let me suck something off of you, right? I just want to glean a little bit of success or the magic sauce. And most people don't have that. Like they'd more than be happy just to hide in the corner and say they're doing all the things that they should be doing, but they're not. And those are the people that burn out. And I don't know what the ratios are, but I've seen something like, less than 3 or 4% of people who start in real estate ever even do anything, let alone, make millions. And it's amazing. So those lessons are part of what you took from being kind of a lone wolf, just getting started, having some success, and then moving to a point where you're like, I want to give back. And you created the Alchemist Nation.
Yeah, man. So Alchemist Nation came because all these mentors poured into me, and so I call it, a mission of 100 millionaires, 100 millionaires who are inspired to build 100 millionaires. And
Mm.
as I built this community and network of over 500 millionaires who are just really nice people. They're not like just millionaires. They're really nice people who actually are cool with like talking to a person about how they got there, what they're doing. I just kept telling them, look, I want to go help more people. I want to go. Would you take a person? Would you take a call? And it was really, again, going back, Benson, and doing the thing that I know they wouldn't do by themselves. But if I asked them, I knew they would do it. So I'd say, hey, this guy, looking to buy real estate in your market. He's got a few questions. Like, I don't really know your market that well. Do you mind jumping on a call with them? And they'd say yes. Like inevitably, they always say yes. Like I don't know what it is that a person feels that need to get. I know I'm like that. You tell me, hey, can you talk to this person? I'm like, yeah, sure. Send them whatever. I'll jump on. But what I found before I did the Alchemist Nation side was I was posting content like you're doing right now. I was posting content about the flips I was doing, post content about the I had this show. I did 6 episodes. It was called Fall River Hustle, the Fall River Hustle. And I would go in and show people how I was managing properties. I was breaking doors down that, tenants, we didn't have the key. The tenant just closed the whole apartment, took the key with them. And I was told the unit was vacant, that they left. And I had the camera rolling. So I broke down the door. Like, so it's like that sort of stuff, me like replacing toilets and, just being like a very real kind of here's what landlording is. It's not all this glamour that everybody says it is. I'm really out here doing stuff I hate doing. I like fixing things. I do. I like the silence of it. And I like the review at the end where you look at a unit and you're like, man, this unit looks nothing like the garbage I walked into. It smells amazing. And so we did like 6 episodes of that, and that started getting people to say, "Hey, who is this guy? What is this guy doing? I want to invest in real estate. If this guy can do it." I used to walk around with a raccoon hat, so I
Oh my
think people
God.
would look at me like, "If this guy can do it, I can do it."
I mean, it's such a great idea. But I mean, so good that why would you stop doing it? Were you just like, okay, I need to move on to new things? I mean, you could do 6 episodes in a week, really, couldn't you?
Yeah, it would take us about a week to do an episode. So I had a great editor. He would come in, he would do it, and we just weren't seeing the ROI of it. I did it
Mm.
intentionally for my real estate brokerage. So I got my license, I had 25 agents, I was really looking to just create content to bring in clients. And what I ended up bringing in were contractors. So I kept getting a bunch of guys who were like, "Oh, dude, like if you ever need help, let me know. Like I can replace toilets faster than that. Like I can do it for you. You shouldn't be doing this. I should do it." It's like, man, like I really thought I was going to get people who want to buy real estate by showing them the work of it, and all I got was contractors who are obsessed with the work. So I shifted to different types of content. The podcast, the Alchemist podcast, just shifted to multifamily only. Like, hey, let's talk about. It started with entrepreneurs, and then we shifted to talking only to coaches, and then we shifted to say, hey, it's multifamily only. Like, I'm going to talk, and I interviewed the top 50 syndicators I had access to, and that was just a real big shift for us. And it started attracting guys and gals who wanted to passively invest. You start talking to syndicators, and they're talking about is the big deal they did, the ROI they have, and the asset management, like that kind of interesting conversation. So I had to shift away from it. But man, let me tell you, I still go back and watch those episodes because it's
Yeah.
it's embarrassing to see the young kid I was, like how brash I was and the stupid shit I was doing. But uh, that was still it's good entertainment. It's on
Yeah.
YouTube. If you ever get a chance to type in the Fall River Hustle, you'll laugh your butt off seeing some of the goofy stuff I did, man.
And now you're doing deals all across the US. So you were telling me earlier about a property you got in Jacksonville?
Jackson, Mississippi. So
Jackson,
murder
Mississippi.
capital of the country.
Oh,
I want to just hit that disclaimer really quickly because people are like, oh my God, Jackson's the murder capital of the city? Well, I spent a week down there. I'm still here. And I spent a week at the property with my tenants. I'm still here. They're all still here. The same tenants that I
yeah.
had, a year ago when I visited the property a year ago.
Well,
So
murderers need a place to live too.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
wow, that's terrible. My tenants are not murderers. We have a gated
No.
community.
Yes, I jest, of course.
Yep.
Um, so yes,
And then
you
we
branched out from Boston, right? And you said you moved to Florida for a while. You were in Tampa for how many? 4 years?
I was in Tampa for 4 years, almost to the day. I remember I moved down there. My
Mm.
goal, I told Doreen, I said, let's go down there. We're gonna go there November 1st. That was my thought, my plan, Benson. And then she pushed me a week. So we're there the first week of November. So then this year, I was thinking, so I told her, I was like, hey, I want to be in Cleveland November 1st. She has gotten better than me. And so we were in Cleveland December 1st. So
Oh, okay.
she found a way to delay a little bit longer. But we're still here. We're doing it. We're rocking. One of the reasons was I couldn't buy anything in Florida. I was managing this property out in Illinois. We bought 35 units in Illinois a year and a half ago, and I was still managing my properties in Boston. So I identified I can manage outside of state. So I know that. But I blew up my portfolio in Massachusetts because I was local. It was so quick to go talk to the guys, so quick to just jump in on a project and get the financing. And lenders love it when you live there. So that's another
Mm,
thing. When
yeah.
you're investing nationally, you pay a premium for being out of state. And when you live locally, you get access to that local bank that only does deals with the local guys. And so we said if there's a market for me to dive into, there's 10 markets. There's 10 markets that I invest in. And if one of them, I looked at all 10, I said, which ones are my hottest, my best, that I think I can expand the most in? And that was, I looked at Cleveland, I looked at Jackson. And I said, those two are the markets I really think I could dive in them at the deepest level. And I liked Cleveland because it's damn close to Pittsburgh, which is one of my markets. Buffalo, New York, another one of my markets. And I know I said New York just now, and everybody's like, oh my God, I'd never invest in New York. Upstate New York's not New York. It's
Right.
probably not even considered. In fact, Manhattan is not really even New York. They're just completely different
It's its
scenarios.
own country.
It's its own country, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the population of Manhattan is the population of all of upstate New York, and they have different rules. So we were looking at why are these, and if anybody Googles these states, the cities I'm talking about, well, it was St. Louis, that is Birmingham, Alabama. These are markets that people know about. You look at the price online, you're like, oh my God, it's so cheap and affordable. But nobody knows how to invest in those markets. They take a local guy. Like it takes being there at that local level. And that's what I teach my masterminds. Like, look, you got to get down there. You got to find your local guy, build a relationship, and you expand. So I did this research with my wife, and she agreed that we're spending almost $4,000 a month in our six-bedroom house in Tampa, Florida, and it's not making me any extra money. And it's a hard conversation to have, Benson, because we have a 7-month-old, and we now have to put jackets on him. In Florida, it was walk outside, go to the car, come and go do things. It's cold here, right? So she's from
Hmm.
Russia, so she's like used to it, but she's not used to it because of 4 years of awesome Florida, right? So got her up here. We now are spending 1,300 bucks a month, where we were spending $4,000. And we're in one of the best parts of Cleveland. We're on the west side of Cleveland. I invest on the east side, but we live on the west side. And the move was two-part. One, it was, hey, we just had a kid, and I don't want you doing all the work you were doing before. I want you to spend time with just our son. And it was partly me, but it was mostly her. She was like, I'm not doing shit. I'm done. I'm out. She's like, the next 3 years, I just want to do this. I want to be a mom. And so I didn't have all that leverage I had from her before. So we said cut expenses. Let's get simplified. And I also said, if I were going to live in Florida, because we could downsize, we don't need a six-bedroom house anymore. It's crazy. But if I'm going to live in Florida and I'm flying out to Cleveland every week, I'm going to miss my son every night. And I don't want to do
Hmm.
that. Like I don't want to miss my kid for 2, 3 days at a time. That's not fair to me. And she agreed to the compromise of we'll be here for 9 months. So I got to buy everything in 9 months, and then I can go back to Florida. So people are like, "Oh, you're moving to Cleveland permanently?" No, no, I will not be here for more than 9 months. So my guess is, Benson, if I were to guess, it won't be November 1st. It'll be before that because she's negotiating in the opposite direction now.
But it's a smart move though. So you, like you said, go build those local relationships, get the lay of the land. That's what I did when I started investing in St. Louis. You mentioned St. Louis. I moved there for a year and just
So smart.
really just embedded myself into the real estate investment community there, built local contractor relationships, met local real estate agents, other investors, wholesalers, and it was just such a great decision. But it's also like an extended vacation too. Like, St. Louis isn't like, it's not not Tampa, it's not a beach community, but I was away from home, right? And there's a different thing about that. Even when you're still doing the day to day, like you're not sitting on the beach drinking Mai Tais, you're working, but you're in an entirely new environment. And
It,
that's kind of like inspirational, right? Like it changes the day-to-day tasks and makes them more exciting. Are you finding that?
bro, it makes me work harder. I
Yeah.
feel it. I feel a sense of I'm here to work, and it makes me feel more like I got a sense of purpose, like an adventure. I think
Hmm.
Grant Cardone's the one who said it. You got to get out of your city. You got to get out of your hometown. You got to get out of, where you've been your whole life in order to really develop a new character. And it does. It feels like it's a vacation. Yeah, it's a long vacation. It's almost a year. It'd be 10 months, 9 months. But this energy that I have now, I just couldn't do it in Tampa. I couldn't walk out and have lunch with the lender who's the guy down like Cleveland. I'm going to meet with the guy who's the guy. He's the guy, literally the guy. And I got a meeting with the broker. This broker puts down like 200 units a month. Like he's the guy who knows, and he's within a brokerage that knows all the guys who do all the deals. And you don't know that, and you can't go to lunch with this guy if you're living in Florida. Like it's
Right.
the convenience of it. I just walked 115 units Monday on a whim. Like an agent who I met at a networking event, like you were just saying, I was at a networking event that I would have never been at. I never would have met this agent. This agent's a player. She's like all these off-market deals. She's really a wholesaler who has an agency, and she's done a bunch of flips. I came from being here, and then she just texted me, "Hey, 115 units. I should have texted you sooner. Do you want to come see it?" I was like, "I'm on my way. Where is it?" It was 26 minutes away. They were just leaving as I got there, and they stuck around and showed me the property. And I submitted an offer right away, with 500,000 back, like really, really sweet offer, 115 units for 5 mil. Really 4.5 mil is what I'll get it for.
Hmm.
Just because
Nice.
I'm here.
Yeah, those and that's is that an off market lead, or are they just giving you a little bit of time before it goes full on market, or
This is
both?
off market. It's the
Uh,
wholesaler got it under agreement. He doesn't have to close till March. So it's like just perfect timing.
yeah, got enough time to do your due diligence, make sure the money's in place. And did you have to put a large earnest money check down just to secure
No,
it?
this agent, this is why I got to be local, right? This
Yeah,
agent, she set the contract up so I don't put the due diligence, the EMD, until 10 days after they sign the contract. So I don't have to do the EMD until after I've done my 10-day inspection period.
nice.
Who does that? Like, bro, I'm so used to I'm so used to being like cut a check, cut a check, cut a check. And then
Oh,
I
I
got
know.
$5,000, $10,000 sitting out there waiting for people to give me yeses. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna tie up your money. Just we'll send it in this way."
So are you going to raise money to close this deal?
I might get the seller to do some of the capital in this. So the seller right now, the offer has $500,000 as a back. So they're carrying a note for that. And that brings my lender that I found locally, he'll do 80% at 7% interest based on the fact that this is at 70% occupancy. And so I got to bring $500,000 to the table. It's 10%.
Hmm.
So I may do a raise. If I do, it'll be a debt raise, second position. But
Yeah,
I might also just do a HELOC on one of my other properties and slide into it that way.
yeah,
But after this one, I'll probably have to raise capital. So this one is like it'll be a little easier, and then after that, it's yeah,
yeah.
which is
But
why you
you're
start funds and do those
but
things.
you're also a private money lender too, right? So you're lending money out to people, and getting that. What are the typical terms that you do on a private money loan?
Oh man, if I tell you my terms, you're gonna want to do private money too.
I do private
It
money
is
too. Yeah.
it is good. So we started with small loans. We started with
Hmm.
$50,000 loans to help people out with like deposits and down
Yeah.
payments, second position on a lot of stuff. And then we slowly like graduated to first position. So we have about $1 million that is lent out. So people they always ask me the question, well, why are you borrowing from me if you're a lender? And it's like, well, dude, I'm lent out. I'm illiquid at the moment. All $1 million is committed for months and months and months and months. So I'm back to capital raising. I'm not going to tell my lenders, my borrowers who are doing great deals, hey, give me my money back so I can do my own deal. It's selfish. I'll just I'll increase my old muscle of bring other people back in. Uh, so terms on some, I did a seller finance on one of my properties. I sold a 10 unit building, and so my appraisal came in way lower than what I was getting. But the guy wanted the building. He believed in the value. And so we ended up carrying a $90,000 note at 7% interest for 10 years. So that's a note that no matter what, every year we're getting that income in. Comes in
Mhm.
like clockwork. Another note is 12% uh, on a business that it's like $280,000 on a business. 12% comes in like clockwork. I got one it was two
What's the
points.
collateral on that business? What did you write it against?
The business itself. So it's
Mm.
based on the business's income. It's based on its ability to sustain. And they were using it for adding staff and marketing and all the things that a business needs to scale up. They had proof of concept. They had what they were doing. And then the other one is 15% interest with 2 points.
Yeah,
And that's
you got one of those.
150,000. I
Those are
got one of
nice.
those. Yeah, so they got a couple of those sitting out. That 15 seems to be what I'm doing right now. As we had less and less money in the bank, we've just made our terms way better. So yeah, private money lending is really good. Always have collateral.
Yeah,
It's a really good rule.
especially when you can find those operators that turn properties quickly, right? Where they can take 100 grand and turn it like 4 times in a year. Like
Because you get the
that's where you
points.
get the points is where it starts to bump it up. Where it's
Yeah.
not just the 12 or 15%. You start to turn that money, and you're getting returns you can't get anywhere else.
You can't, man. Not with the stability of real estate. Like obviously there's the stock market if you look at equity itself, but there's no company on the stock market writing you a check for, 12%. Like that just doesn't happen, right? Try to find a dividend that's more than 4%, right? And then if you
Right.
do, like will that company be around? How long are they like they're capital raising if they're more than 4% dividend yields. So you're kind of in a space where bonds are 4%. The equities, the best you can get there is four, maybe 6, 7, 8% if you go into like energy. Um, so where can you get the money? Like where can you do it? Well, real estate still has cash flow. Real estate's got that kind of attachment to it of, well, I keep making money, I can give it back to you. It's got, um, like you said, flips. Like look at the margins on some of these flips, man. They 30%, 20% margins on $5 million projects. No, I'm sorry, not 5 million, $500,000 projects. Like there's good money there.
Yeah.
So I know the guy's got to make his money. He's just got to stick through it and get it done. The hardest thing with lending really does come down to qualifying the borrower, though. Like that's why we have the mastermind. That's why Alchemist Nation has its inner circles. I get asked all the time from people who see me on Facebook say, if I slip that I'm a lender, they're like, oh man, okay, cool. Will you lend to me? And it's like, dude, I don't know you. Right? Lending is all
Yeah.
about that personal relationship that I know for sure. I know your family helps. I know like how to find you that helps. Like all those layers that I know about you are likelihood that you're going to pay. Right? It all
It's a huge
creates
difference.
confidence. It's due diligence.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things you talk about is so you've got 100% repayment track record, and that's all going down to vetting the borrower. So what's like your criteria? Like you said, you want to know them, but what are some of the other criteria that you look at to vet a borrower to make sure that they are worthy of you lending money to them?
I wish I could say, I got to answer this first. I wish I could say I have 100%
Oh.
return on everything. I've got one, I entered into an investment where I didn't know the guys,
Mm.
and it was a 4x trading bot that was trading gold, the average of gold. And the operators who were running it were really good guys. But the fund I got into, the fund manager ended up dying of a heart attack.
Oh
And
no.
then everybody in the fund decided to sue because they weren't getting their money. So they went to sue the operator. And then my money got tied up for 2 years. That was a quarter million. It was a little over a quarter million tied up for 2 years. So I wish I could say all my money was operating well. And I'd say the thing I learned here, that's not real estate. So one, my
Yep.
space is real estate. It's what I'm good at. Two, I didn't know the operators. Right? I wasn't in direct connection with the operator. I was through this other entity, so that's a problem. And three, I didn't even know the guy from the other entity. It was just somebody brought me the thing. It paid really high interest, and I said, yeah, let's go, let's gamble, let's
Yeah.
make some money. Yeah, they were paying
There's a few
25%.
check boxes there. So you want to know them. You want it to be have good collateral, so backed by real estate. Um, Track record. What kind of track record are you looking at? So like moving forward, let's say okay, you've revised your vetting criteria and now you're moving forward. What are the check boxes that you're going to make sure that these people fit?
That's perfect. Yeah. So I have the 10 markets for a reason. Those are markets I studied. I'll invest in. I'll take that property over if it happens. So worst case scenario, I can control it. You and I were just talking about Avistor. So the fund we're setting up, we have to have a controlling position. It doesn't have, we don't have to have all the equity, but we have to have the ability to remove a manager. So if I'm invested in a deal and that person's messing it up, I can step in and control the deal. Now,
Mm,
we're going to still make the same profits as we would have otherwise, but at least I can now control its return. So I only invest in those 10 markets. That protects me in sense of knowledge of the marketplace. I only invest if I have control to take over if things aren't working well. And um, if I were to add another one, it really does come down to me knowing that person's past experience. They can't be their first deal. I will not invest in a first deal.
yeah.
People can't even get in my mastermind if they don't own their own single family home. If they haven't at least bought a house in the past, I don't want to teach you how to buy a house. Go get a realtor. Let the realtor teach you how to buy a house. I think that realtors have a great place, right?
Hmm.
And if this is your first investment, man, I'll teach, I'll educate, I'll support you, but there's no way I'm putting my money into your first deal. Nobody put money in my first deal. I had to go figure that out, right? Like that was my own money. It was,
Yeah.
$8,000 with an FHA loan. But that first deal, I don't want anything to do with it. So your second deal, as long as you're in the same city and it was within a year of operations, I'll do that, right? If you show me like this guy is in my mastermind, like Ryan James, this guy picked up 12 units last year, picked up 12 units this year. He's gonna pick up 12 units in the next year. That guy's guaranteed for me. That's I print off of that. Like I'll do those 12 units with you because it makes sense, right? It's something I could see him doing it consistently. He's managing it fine. I can look at his current portfolio and say, well, you're probably going to manage that the same way you're managing this next one. So I look the same. So I don't look for, I'm not like, I'm not the easiest money to get. I'm not like the guy who will just give you anything, but I'm usually not coming in first position either. I'm usually coming in second position as mezzanine debt. So I have a slightly
Hmm.
riskier position, which is why I'm charging a little bit more interest.
Yeah. Yeah. But people who have the good track record, who have all the experience, who have a good deal, like they can basically choose which PMLs they want to work with. With you charging more, then that's making the pie smaller and the amount of people that want to take it. Doesn't it ultimately come to some of those people who are newer because they just don't have the network built yet and they haven't built those relationships with those PMLs that will give them better terms?
It's such a good point. I used to say this when I was starting too. I was like, dude, like how am I supposed to get a chance? Like you got to help me out at some point. Like somebody's got to help me
Yeah.
out. And what I tell people now and what I've found was you just got to do a smaller deal. Just do something smaller. Do something you can do
Yeah.
yourself. Like go downsize it, shrink it down. Uh, a lot of times, the first question I'll get from somebody after I've spoken about multifamily is they'll come up to me and say, okay, like, bro, I want to go do 100 units. And I'm like, cool, excellent, wonderful. And they're like, how many units should I do? And it's like, well, you just told me you want to do 100. Now you're asking me how many you should do. My new question is, how many do you know for sure you could close in the next 30 days and absolutely crush it? What size building do
Mm,
you know for sure with absolute certainty that you would do amazing? If it was the next 30 days, maybe, I don't know, like a duplex or maybe like a condo or like a single family. There's your answer. That's the one I'd like to see you do. I'd like to see you do that deal and then come to me with all the problems you solved and ran into. And now we could talk about, because once you do the duplex, yeah, maybe you're not doing another duplex. Maybe you jump up to 12 units. Maybe you jump up to 8 units. But that first
mhm.
one really is the decider of whether you're even going to be an investor at all, right? Because
Yeah.
we want to see, can you manage a unit? Can you manage 2 units? Can you manage a mortgage and expenses? And are your numbers accurate? Do you have that? Um, my mentor said we're stewards. He said you're stewards of real estate, and then we pass it on to the next steward. Right? None of us die with it, and none of us hold it forever. Truly, we usually pass it to somebody else in our lifetime. as you're doing. You sold a bunch of your single family homes and your duplexes on the market right now. So
Mhm.
look at that. You were a steward for those. I bet when you bought them, you were like me. Oh, I'm gonna hold these forever. This is my retirement plan. And now you're investing in multifamilies. I thought the same thing.
Oh yeah, and I was always that mindset. Like real estate, in real estate, the hardest part about it is just getting it. And then you always talk to people and they're like, God, I should have never sold that property back in whatever. It would have been this worth this much now. But you can't do both, right? There's not unlimited funds out there. And like I can get a better ROI by moving it. And that was my justification, right? So like, okay, I could still make money on a normal rental or on a short-term rental. But then I look at like the cap rate or whatever, how I measure the return, and I compare that to what I could do in multifamily and being like a GP and having a fund. And it's like the numbers are just way different. And that's how I justified it because the return on investment in this different asset class was just way better.
And it's a return on investment. And you and I are talking about the money side of it. But as operators of smaller buildings, we have to look at the return on time too. That small building costs me just as much time to manage that manager in that market as the larger building does. I'm still looking at a P&L, I'm still reviewing the same stuff, and for me to have not as much income, it means I'm more involved, right? The smaller units, when you get below 80, when you get down to 60, 40, 3 units, 4 units, it's really hard to bring in a property manager who's going to be any kind of quality that's going to give you a return. Usually that property manager is charging you 10%. Well, you start getting up to 100 units, they're charging you 4%. That's a big difference. That's a huge
Mm,
change in the cost of operations. Just immediate vertical integration from having a bunch of units. So it is also time, right? Like all of those small buildings start stacking up, and it's like, man, like the headache that holds in us. So that goes back to how long we can hold it. My mentor said, stewards, a lot of times we can't hold it long enough. A lot of people just will get into investing, they'll hold a profit for 2 to 4 years, and they get out, they sell it, and they're done. When you're able to hold it for a long period of time, the real estate market really pays off. Like it really rewards you for doing that. And it becomes a pressure to hold more of those, though. Like the more units you hold, the more pressure you're feeling at all times. And it,
mhm,
it is a pressure that weighs down. And I think of Elon Musk as like a perfect example because he's got 100,000 employees, or he did, 4 years ago. And I looked that number up. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of staff, right? 100,000 employees. And sometimes I'll get stressed out with 130 units, or we're taking down 80 units right now. Like that's just tenants that are uh, once a month they send us a check. With employees, it's every day they got to have a manager and all these things happen. So that's a lot of pressure. And how did a guy like Elon do it? He's able to hold the pressure better than most people. He's able to just kind of compartmentalize it and
mhm,
build really great systems. And I think for us as entrepreneurs, whether you're in real estate or you're multifamily or you're just an entrepreneur building your affiliate marketing program right now, or you're trying to get people to buy your stuff, or you're building your software, whatever you're at in the cycle, you got to look at it as, can I handle the pressure for as long as this project's going to take? I think the best quote was Mark Zuckerberg. He said, if I knew what it would take to get Facebook to where it is today, he said, I never would have started. If I knew all the steps that were going to be involved to get it to be what it is,
mm,
there's no way I would have taken this thing on. That seems so impossible. You do the first one, you do that first deal, my first lending deal, you did it, right? And then my first flip, I did it. And the first rental property, I did it. And I just kept stacking on that experience of, well, I guess I did that, so I guess I'll do the next one. Well, I guess I did that, I guess I'll do the next one, and you just kind of move forward in that direction. It becomes customer service. I got into Jackson. I'll tell you, Jackson, murder capital of the city, right? Murder capital of Mississippi. I got down to City Hall. Nobody was getting shot. I was getting murdered in City Hall. So I asked them, what are the problems you're facing? And then I walked my building and other buildings, and I saw the difference. My building, those tenants really needed help. And when I went to City Hall, I said, hey, some of my tenants really need help. Like they're struggling. Like this seller really let the ball go. And if I told him, if there's other sellers like this who are dropping the ball, they're tired landlords not taking care of things, I want to be involved. I want to help. I want to, I'll buy those buildings and I'll take that over too. And they just opened up. They were just like, here's one, here's one, here's one. Go contact these guys. Like, get into it. This is what they did. These are all the violations they've got, and here's why we want you to take this over, and we'll support you in this. Here's the grants, here's that. And Benson was like, the world just opened up for me,
Wow.
because I genuinely saw the problem, and I love taking a family and saying, you know what, you do deserve heat, right? The building I'm buying, the guy, 8 units don't have heat, and it's cold in Mississippi. Believe it or not, I was freezing my ass off. It didn't snow, but it was cold.
Hmm.
And I'm walking in, and I'm like, hey, so what's going on with the heat? How long has it been out? They're like, oh, 2 weeks. And in my heart, I wanted to cry. I'm looking at a little kid, a little 6 month kid, reminds me of my son back home. And I was just like, dude, I gotta fix this shit. And I got to City Hall, and they're like, it's like that in these buildings. And
Mm.
so it comes down to purpose, man. It does. You gotta feel like you're doing some good work out there, and you gotta put yourself into a spot where there is nobody else who wants to go out there. Nobody wants to go to Mississippi, right? Nobody's going to Jackson. Do you know how hard it is? You know how hard it is to get there? You gotta fly through Atlanta. There's no way, unless you live in Atlanta, you can't get to Jackson.
And
So
then
you
just
gotta
drive the rest of
fly.
the way. Wow.
That's it.
I
You
didn't
gotta go
know
through the
that.
hub. It's hard. It's hard to get out there. Hedge funds won't touch it. A lot of banks won't touch it. I'm raising private capital to do the city because
Mm.
no lenders are willing to touch it. So uh, you gotta to be successful in business, you gotta go somewhere nobody else wants to go and be willing to do work nobody else wants to do and be able to sustain that pressure for a longer period of time than anybody else is willing to sustain it. So much so to the point that by the time you stabilize it and it's all sweet, everybody's like, oh my God, this is the greatest property ever. I want to buy it. I'll pay top dollar for it. Or
Yeah.
I want your business. I want to buy it. Nobody cares about it when it's a good deal. When it's a good deal and there's blood in the streets, literally the murder capital. When it's tough to do it, nobody wants it. Show me those, man.
Oh,
Like, give me those markets. I'll go down there. We'll figure it out. But I can't make it work in Florida. I tried. I was there 4 years, Benson. I was so deep in the
it's
network.
tough, man. It's tough out there. I almost bought some property out in Tampa right before the last hurricane, and I'm glad I didn't. It was just kind of serendipitous that the market dipped at that point. But it's still like there's a lot of people moving to Florida. Like a lot of people are
Yeah.
moving from Boston, New York, California, and as much as they're going to give people in Florida a hard time, like it seems like Florida's always the butt of somebody's joke. I don't know why. I like
Florida
Florida.
man. It's always Florida man, Benson. We blame
Yeah,
him for everything.
God. And then they don't like DeSantis, and it's a red state, and all these things, right? But Florida's great. There's opportunity there. Um, but you learn how competitive, right? That's the whole problem. It attracts a lot of people. It brings competition, and
Everything you said is exactly why I struggled there, man. One,
yeah,
they just don't have the multifamily inventory, right? So that is a challenge. They don't have old inventory. It's all brand new. It's all new construction. Everything's coming up. And two, every influencer, every real estate investor from Pittsburgh who made it, the investor from Indianapolis who made it, the investor from Ohio who made it, the investor from Detroit who came up in Chicago, they bought real estate low, they sold it high, they think they're the cream of they're the best real estate investor ever. Screw this, I'm retiring to Florida, I'm gonna do it down there. All the greatest investors from across the country have moved to Florida and they're going to do it down there. And I got down there and I'm like, oh, wait, I know all you guys. Hold on. I don't want to be in the same city as all of you. I love you guys,
that's
but I
how
don't want to compete
Phoenix
with you.
is too. That's the other hub for where people go to when they're going to go do real estate. Oh, I'm going to go to Phoenix,
Phoenix and
right?
Texas. Phoenix, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston. Yeah, you talk about these markets. Atlanta, Georgia now wiped out. Like these are the markets that the guys who have been crushing in syndication, multifamily the last 5 years, those are the markets. And if you know about it as an investor, I would just say this. If you know about it as an investor and you see other guys doing it, you missed your shot. Like you missed your
Mm,
shot. It's time to go to where people just aren't willing to go. You got to go where the hedge funds are. You know the rules of the B1, the B2, the S1, S2, Dave Lindahl's Emerging Markets.
no, tell me.
Okay, so Dave Lindahl wrote the book Emerging Markets. He's like the grandfather, godfather of how to find off market, like the right markets to get into before they explode. And a B1 market is a market. This is buy one, right? An S2 market, you don't want to buy in. That's like the market's already dropping down. It's Florida right now. It's losing its money. Like rents are coming down. Apartment buildings are giving concessions. Here's a free month rent, 2 free months rent. The B1 market, on the other hand, is like it's been down here for a while. It S2'd and then started slipping back up, but it's not like property values are going up. It's just property values stopped going down. And then a B2 market. This was the entire country in 2015, 2014. It was just like coming up. You knew you bought it, and like 2 years later, it'd go up in value. You knew you bought it, 2 years later, it'd go up in value. S1 is what we saw during COVID, where everything just shot up in value, just instantaneously 17%, 22% in a year, valuations driving up. And now a lot of the nation is in this S2 market where prices are coming down, things are stabilizing, they're coming back down. They'll get to a B1 again. It's buy one. The rule in real estate is you can buy during a B1, you can buy during a B2, you can buy during an S1, but you got to get out. That's flip
Early.
time. Yep.
Yeah, get in early.
But if you are in a S2, you must hold. You must hold, you must hold, you must hold. We're in an S2 in these markets where all the syndicators are, and then interest rates go up. How do you hold when you weren't prepared for interest rates? How do you hold when the rates are higher than you expected them to be? And the only answer I have for that is you got to borrow more money. You got to
Right.
borrow more. You got to double down. You've got to
Well, that only
promise.
affects them if they have to get a new mortgage, right? So if their
Right.
loan's coming due, or they got a balloon, right, or something's changing, or they're going to refinance, out of an old loan that, to get into a new loan. So they got to take on today's rates. Um, but if they're just in a traditional, regular loan, they can keep that forever. And
Right.
then you can come in and do something creative with them, seller
That's
financing or something like that.
that's exactly what I'm seeing now in Cleveland. So,
Yeah.
and we're seeing in other markets. These guys are in at one I'm looking at buying. It's 378 units. We just negotiated today, and he's got one of his loans at 3.5%. But that has to be refied in 2 years. So 2027, I'm going to be out of that. But for 2 years, it's sweet cash flow, and I can use it to operate the other building. The other thing that we look at right now, and this is just to say, hey, look, yeah, maybe I couldn't make it in Florida during that time. I think Florida's going to have its opportunity. I think right now, beachfront property in Florida, buy it because everybody's
Mm,
trying to get out. Everybody's selling at a discount. They're getting their insurance checks. They're saying, I don't want to build this thing. I'm taking the money. Right? I've used the property. I'm tired of the property. I don't want to go spend. I don't even have enough to go rebuild this thing properly. And you're going to have a lot of these properties on the waterfront where the hurricanes hit, where the opportunities are there. For me, it's not going to be the multifamilies. It's all going to be single families. So it's not my jam. But for the flippers, the single
hmm
family, buy and hold rental group. The other one I avoid is Airbnb. They got condensed, like compressed, crushed. But in the Midwest, so here's my end of this, right? B1, B2, S1, S2. During any market, you can always go to the Midwest and just always be right there in a B1 market.
That's
It's
St. Louis,
the
that's
Midwest may never
Chicago,
make it
it's
to B2.
Indianapolis, Milwaukee, Kansas
You got
City.
them. Kansas City, yes, Toledo.
Yep.
You name Akron, Ohio. Like these
Yeah.
are the Midwest. They'll be in a B1 market forever. And who gets screwed in those markets are the investors who are coming from high appreciation, Boston, New York, California, Florida, Austin, Texas, and they're coming into these markets, Phoenix now. They're coming to these markets saying, okay, I saw what happened there. This is going to happen here. No, dude. No, it doesn't work that way in the Midwest.
Mm,
That's not how it works. It's always going to be right here. And so you got to buy it based on the cash flow. And that just goes back to the fundamentals of multifamily is if we can buy on the cash flow with the rates the way they are, I've always done my math. If I can buy it at 12%, I'll buy it. If I can make a cash flow at 12% interest, I will buy it. And if the rates ever go up to 12%, I'll have to start redoing my math. But I've always bought this way since 2012.
hmm And it's worked, and you've been scaling. Is that what's next for you? Are you just going to scale into larger and larger projects, or do you see yourself doing something different in a different asset class? It's not multifamily. Maybe you go to like hospitality. Maybe you get a hotel next, or maybe you're buying private islands, or where do you see this going?
I got to word this carefully. So I'm gonna be very careful with this question because you
Okay.
you phrased it in such a way that scares me. So when I first started real estate, I said I would never be an agent, and then I got my
Mm,
license. And then I said when I got my license, I'll never work with people. I just got it to be an investor. I just wanted access to MLS. And then I started working with people. And then I said I would never be a broker. then I had a team of 25 people working for me. And so I got to be very careful with what I say. I said I'd never invest in the Midwest. I said I'd never, never invest. I'm just going to stay here in Massachusetts.
Yeah, but this is different. This is all the stuff you said you weren't going to do, and
Right.
then you did it.
So,
What are you going to do?
so I got to be very careful with this. Right
Yeah.
now, I know for sure I'm going to continue scaling. I want to get to 1,000 units in Cleveland. That's my for sure goal. I want to get to 1,000 units in Jackson, and I want to get 1,000 units in each one of the 10 markets that I've agreed to. So that those 10 markets are my home. I know where they're at. I know where they're going. These next 4 or 6 years, I got plenty of time to do it. But I'm moving fast, like I got no time. So
Hmm.
these next 4 or 5 years, I want to be at 10,000 units within these desperate markets, these gateway communities. My heart sings to help these people. So that for sure I know. I know the fund is coming out, so the fund will be only investing in these 10 markets. And I know for sure I've got to buy 200 units in Cleveland just for my wife. That's her retirement plan. She
Okay.
wants to spend the next 3 years raising babies. I know for sure. I can't guarantee I'll have another child this time next year, but I'm going to try my best, Benson. Whether it works out or not, I'm going to practice and I'm going to try.
That sounds like a great podcast. I would watch that. Just you just trying to make babies. Sounds like a blast.
So my goal is 3 kids, because it's my wife's goal. I'm fine with my son is beautiful. I could stop right there. I raised in my mind the most perfect child. This is my product for the rest of my life, and I got to show him that his dad still works. I got to show him that I still got the hustle, that I care about people, that I'm still doing what I said I would do when I started this. So I'll keep buying real estate. I'll keep coaching. I'm gonna step back on the coaching, but I'll keep mentoring. I'll
Hmm.
keep building community, and I'm going to hire more coaches. I'm going to let other people coach my clients instead of me doing it personally. So
Yeah.
if I could commit to one thing, I'm going to stay friends with Benson Juarez. We're gonna keep scaling up, help more people, man.
Hell yeah. I love it, man. So you probably inspired a bunch of people today in, you're getting the wheels turning. They're like, man, I want to do what he's doing. How can they become part of the Alchemist Nation, and what is the benefit of them joining?
Yeah, thank you. Alchemist Nation is pretty easy to get a hold of. You go to ibuildmillionaires.com. So ibuildmillionaires.com, easy to remember, easy to forget. So write it down, go to it, right? And then when you're there, you register for our 10 o'clock call. And every Saturday at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard, 7 o'clock on the Pacific Coast. But it is every Saturday we do it. There's 52 wealth principles that we identified 6 years ago. And we share one of the books and we share one of the principles and we just deep dive for about 25 minutes and we do a hypnosis so you memorize it all. We call it accelerated learning.
Hmm.
And we have running a coach who does hypnosis, say, hey, everything in this principle is locked into your brain. And he does a cool little thing that actually locks it into my brain. So I know it's working
Wow.
for me and I hope it works for other people. So that is the easiest way to get access to us is I Build Millionaires. I used to post it live, but I don't do that anymore. Now I just have it in a Zoom room. And the reason is when I was posting live, people were hearing about my deals that I was doing and
Mm.
kind of beating me to it, strangers. Within the community, like nobody would step on one of my deals. So I share what I'm doing. I keep it very open and honest. But in Facebook and YouTube, I was getting people showing up inside my deals that did not belong there. So I document the whole process. Every deal I'm doing, I tell everybody about it, tie it into the principle. So Alchemist Nation, we're committed to building millionaires. Vinny Chopra is one of our advocates. So I said 100 millionaires. Vinny said 1 million millionaires. So we got a lot of work to do, Benson. We got to
I
build
love
a
it. So you
million
mentioned
millionaires,
the
man.
52 Wealth Principles. That's one of your books, right?
So
So
I
you guys go,
haven't I haven't written that book yet. It's coming. So that
oh,
is
it's
one of my
coming.
it's one of my
Okay.
goals for this year. So the Real Estate Alchemist, get the deal. So this is the underground playbook for finding motivated sellers, evaluating real estate properties, and closing more deals in your market. And that picture is me in front of my city. So that's my city, Fall River, with the bridge back there. So it's kind of
Awesome.
ceremonial. And the other one is
Oh,
Names on Deeds. And this one is the ultimate guide to small multifamily real estate investing for beginners. It's really how do you raise capital? This one's really about
ooh, that's
creative
good. Yeah.
financing. How do you find the capital? Where do you find the deals? How to talk to a seller who owns a multifamily deal.
I love it. So you guys go check out those books. Go check out the Alchemist Nation. You could be one of the millionaires that's on his list that he's helped to create over the years. You said 500 now, right?
I have 500 millionaires in my network. I have personally
Oh,
built 35. So 35 and actually 36. I just got a woman on a call yesterday. She said, "Hey, you're the reason." She confirmed that I was the reason, Alchemist Nation. So I'm at 36 millionaires I built in the last 5 years.
that's amazing. So you guys go check that out. You will not be disappointed. Obviously, Gualter is an inspirational guy. He's doing a bunch of really exciting things. You want to be around this guy. Like I can just tell that if you can glean any sort of his success and his ability, look how happy he is, right? He's out there helping people. He's making money. He's making babies. Who doesn't want to do that? So, Walter, thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate it. It was good catching up with you. We got to stay in contact more, collaborate on some projects, and you guys go check out his stuff. And thanks for listening to this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. Keep an eye out for more really amazing guests like Walter. People are out there moving and shaking, doing big deals, doing exciting things, not taking no for an answer. And there's just lots of really cool stories and good lessons, tips and tricks that you can get from those. So please check those out. Walter, thanks again, buddy.
Absolutely, brother. For everybody listening, like, share, subscribe, go write a review on iTunes. It helps the ratings tremendously. I know I was a podcaster for years. Benson's got over 100 episodes, all solid gold. So if you like this one, go give it a thumbs up so we know you like this one more. Cheers to your success. When you have a choice, I always work with the best.
Appreciate it, brother. Good seeing you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
That's a wrap on today's Real Estate Revelations. Thank you for tuning into the REI Hacker Podcast. Remember, every property has a story, and every deal is a lesson. Until next time, keep hacking the real estate world.